Hi guys, it's Inam4 again. On the left hand side of the screen you'll see a Sony Xperia S, new phone released about a month ago in white. On the right hand side you'll see the Samsung Galaxy S2, about a year old. So if I'm no messing about, if I start, this is a video on benchmarking, so start the tests off, especially the AnTuTu benchmarking, because that takes a little while. We're using that as a benchmarking test first of all, because it's a good tool to use to test multi-core devices or CPUs even within these new smartphones these days, and it's a good overall indication of processing power and grunt of the device as it tests all the major hardware components. While we're waiting for that, because that will take a little while to go through, just go over the specs. You've got the Sony Xperia S in white with a 4.3 inch HD 1280 by 720 resolution screen, whereas the Samsung Galaxy S2 is not HD, but it is a 4.3 inch Super AMOLED Plus screen. It's all cracking screen though. CPUs on a Sony Xperia S, it's got a 1.5 GHz dual-core CPU, and the Samsung Galaxy S2 has got a 1.2 GHz dual-core CPU. Both of these devices come with 1 GB of RAM and storage, 16 gig with onboard storage with the Samsung Galaxy S2, 32 GB of onboard storage with the Sony Xperia S. However, the Sony Xperia S does not come with a micro SD card for storage, but the Samsung Galaxy S2 does. Just looking at the phones themselves though, the Xperia S does look like a better designed phone, but there is a year in the two devices coming out. When the Xperia S was announced, I honestly thought Sony were going to go with a quad-core CPU, as was the trend with all the newer phones coming out. But Sony seemed to go with the safer bet these days and go for something they know actually works, which is fair enough. The dual-core 1.5 GHz definitely does work. We'll see the benchmark results as they come through. So the Galaxy S2 is nearly finished, currently on 85%. Incidentally, both the operating systems on both of these phones are stock Android. They're not custom at all, so I reverted my Galaxy S2 back to stock just for these tests, just to make sure there's nothing going on. There's no power saving going on. I've turned off all that power saving stuff. The screen's not going to go to sleep. All that stuff is turned off. There's nothing running in the background. Okay, so the score on the Galaxy S2, we'll zoom in a little bit. As you can see on the scores on both those, you can see the Samsung Galaxy S2, the total score is 6,382. The Sony Xperia S is 6,635. If we go through the ones for each hardware device, the RAM on the Xperia S is 1,349. RAM on the Samsung Galaxy S is a 1,090. So the Galaxy S2 losing out a little bit there. CPU Integer 2,197 for the Xperia S. The same property on the Galaxy S2 is 1,740. CPU float point 897 on the Xperia S. Float point is 1,312 on the Galaxy S2. So Galaxy S2 gets that one. 2D graphics on the Xperia S was 294, whereas the Galaxy S2 is 297. Okay, a little bit higher. 3D graphics on the Xperia S 1,245, with 3D graphics on the Galaxy S2 as being 1,239. So Galaxy S2 losing the graphics just slightly on the 3D, and it gives you the CPU frequency there. You can see the CPU frequency on the Xperia S is 1.512, and the CPU frequency on the Galaxy S2 is 1.2. Okay, so that's the AnTuTu benchmark. We'll just go back. Okay, so we've gone back, and what we'll do is we'll now run the quadrant test on both. Quadrant standard, and we'll run full benchmark on both the devices at the same time again, just to get an idea of multiple benchmark tests on both. So just see if you can zoom in a little bit there. And this one's normally a quick test, it doesn't take too long to do. Definitely not as long as the AnTuTu benchmark, but again still tests all the major components within the device. As I mentioned earlier, both the devices running stock Android operating systems, being Android Gingerbread. None of the CPUs have been overclocked, they're all stock. So this is just to give you an idea of what stock hardware will give you in terms of benchmarking tests. And the benchmarking, this one is done, so we'll say yes to proceed on sending the information. And we'll also say yes to the Galaxy S, sending the information. Both are on Wi-Fi, both are exactly the same distance away from the access point as well. Okay, we'll start with the Xperia S first of all. Let's see if we can just zoom in there so you can see that. There you go. So you can see the Galaxy, or should I say the Sony Xperia S first of all on the left hand side. It gets a your device score of 3092, whereas the Samsung Galaxy S2 gets a your device score of 4137. So the Galaxy S2 kills it completely out of the water, which is a little bit strange to be fair, as the phone, as I say, is over a year old, but it's a cracking phone. Some of the phones that come out even this year don't even match up to the usability or the hardware of this. I think it's a cracking phone. If you just go through some of the specs along the bottom, so as I said, we got the total scores there. The CPU on the Xperia S gets a score of 6064. CPU on the Galaxy S2 gets 5796, so the score's lower on the Galaxy S2. The memory on the Xperia S is 2451, and the memory on the Galaxy S2 is 3912. The Galaxy S2 grabbing that one by a fair margin there. Input output on the Xperia S is 4914, whereas the same value on the Galaxy S2 is 8232. And finally, the 2D graphics first of all. Xperia S is 345, Galaxy S2 is 585. S2 takes it again. 3D graphics on the Xperia S 1688, and on the Galaxy S 2160. So that takes that one. Quadrant score is a lot higher for the Galaxy S2, but I should think the AnTuTu benchmark is a little bit more realistic to go on, as that's built for multi-core processors more so than the Quadrant benchmark. Take what you will from those benchmarking tests. They're both cracking phones with great specs to go with them as well. This is Inam 4. Any questions or comments, please put those below. Please subscribe from the button up top there, just to check out what I'm doing. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything, and you can just stay in touch. Thanks for watching, have a good day, and goodbye.